Today, our topic is how to ensure volunteers and donors find you on ChatGPT or any of the other kind of AI search engines. And so before we dive in, though, my name is Gung. It's pronounced like Gung Ho, if that's helpful. And I'm one of the co-founders here at Civic Champs. These are some of the things I'm kind of affiliated with. Went to school at Michigan State for my undergrad and then Harvard Business School. And then previous to Civic Champs, I did a couple other startups, but I now live in the Indianapolis region. And I'm currently the development committee chair for a local nonprofit here called Westminster Neighborhood Services. So I have some more hands-on experience these days. And then a couple things before we, kind of dive into the topic for today. So the first is people often ask about logistics. So we will be sending the slides after the presentation. We also have a recording as well that we'll be sharing with everybody. We expect this to be about 30 to 40 minutes, followed by Q&A. You can leave questions in chat like we've been doing already. I'm going to keep an eye out on all of that so that we can get back to that with Jim in case he doesn't get to it in the moment. And
Mhm.
then Jim does actually have a couple of kind of freebies or things to share with you all at the end. And so stay till the end to see what that's all about. Right? And then the second thing is, a number of folks often ask us, what is Civic Champs? And so we're a volunteer management software platform. And so I'm going to take about 60 seconds to kind of introduce us. And, if you want to learn more, feel free to reach out. But we help nonprofits prove, grow, and sustain their impact by turning volunteer activities into measurable results. And so that's across the full life cycle of the volunteer process, right? Recruiting, onboarding, scheduling, etc. What we're known for is being sort of best value, relatively inexpensive is what that means, I think, and then really easy to use, right? And so a couple screenshots here of, our tracking, event signups, collecting feedback from folks, right? Reporting that we do. So that's kind of what we do, and we have some integrations as well, right? But with that, let me introduce our speaker for the day. Um, Jim's actually been with us once before last year, I believe, right, Jim?
Yeah, that's right. Been about 6 months now. Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome back. Kind of by popular demand, Jim did a fantastic course for us then around SEO. And so we thought we'd refresh that because now that we have all of these AI chat engines. But yeah, Jim, do you want to say a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah. Thanks, Con. Yes, so I'm the CEO of Orchestra AI, which is a startup that's originally kind of focused a little bit more on AI and marketing and is definitely leaning hard into the whole answer engine optimization, AI visibility place with spyglasses. Actually a software developer by background. I sort of got into marketing the hard way. One of those cases where like, oh, no one else is available to do it, so I'm doing it. But I do love it. It's a mystery, just the whole process of how people discover you and how to make that better, easier, faster, more effective is just it's always fascinating. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, but I was born in the Detroit area and spent some years in Boston as well. Since as all of us are here, kind of shared with a passion, my volunteer passion is helping underrepresented people start tech careers. Two specific areas are veterans transitioning out of military service and actually stay-at-home parents. Both of them, I think, have really a lot to offer. So I try to help them transition into the field. I used to do two truths and a lie, but I have three fun things, so I don't want to ruin any of them. So these are all actually true things. You can take those for what they were. If we find each other on LinkedIn at some point, I'd be happy to share the stories behind all these.
A couple of them seem more fun than perhaps the last one.
Well, because it's a good story, if not necessarily a fun story.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Jim, I'm going to
So,
let you share your screen. So I'm going to
yeah.
stop share and let you take over.
Uh, and I will forward through to this. And there we go. Alrighty. Yeah, so I've got like 5 slides in a demo here. I'm going to try and make this as interactive as possible, but I might not be able to kind of keep an eye on the chat as well. So maybe raise a hand. And I just want to, all of you who are on camera, I want to say thank you very much. Definitely having some audience rapport helps in this process. So always appreciated. So you probably don't need to be convinced in this, but why focus on AI as a channel? I'm sure all of you have used ChatGPT or one of the other AI engines to do product research, to find things. It is taking off, faster than just about every other adoption of technology by consumers, certainly in the last decade and maybe ever. Um, Lots of stats showing like the shift that it comes through. This is now almost a default way that people find new opportunities, either products to purchase, volunteer opportunities, places to donate, all of those things. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Uh, and it's one of the things is like some of it is, and if you spend any time in the space as I do, you'll hear a lot of people say like, yeah, it's just a different interface for search, right? And to some extent that's true, but it is different enough that you have to do things differently in order to increase your visibility and actually, be mentioned in chats and things like that. So the average Google search is about 4 words long. Volunteer opportunities near me, press go, what comes up, you know. An AI prompt averages about 22 words. So a lot of opportunities. People often share background or rationales or things, with an AI that they wouldn't share with a traditional search. So that changes just the dynamics of what ends up getting surfaced a lot. It's also conversational. Again, you've seen this if you used it. People branch out. Hey, let's circle back to a previous point. They use it as very much an exploration as opposed to just a press a button, look through the top 10 links and click through. And obviously, it has a pretty robust built-in set of knowledge, but it also has the ability to search in real time. So you can get up-to-date data. This also helps it not make stuff up, like putting glue on pizza or other silly things that people can make AIs do. It also knows context. So now this is something that's relatively new in the last 6 or 7 months, but AI will remember past chats and be able to suggest things or actually steer conversations based on what it knows about you and your interests. So all of these things change how you as an organization need to position yourself in order to make sure that you're better able to be featured in the AI conversations that people who care about what you're doing are actually having. So this gets a little more complex, but the traditional search engine, if you rank number one for a particular query, volunteer opportunities in Dallas, that kind of thing, you're going to get most of the clicks. Most people don't scroll down, they just click on the first link and kind of go. AI is definitely more complex. It's got 3 different layers to it. First is if it already knows, if someone asks about your nonprofit, for example, if you're in its training data, it can report based on what it already knows. So if that's true, you're likely to show up more often. The second thing that it does, I mentioned before, is it can actually go out and search the web in real time to try and answer questions. So if you're asking it stock prices, it can go off and look up a stock price and actually give you that answer in relatively real time. Again, not much different than what a search engine can do, but the fact that it can do it in the context and actually search multiple sites at the same time and synthesize that information makes it a little bit different. And then the one thing that's interesting in all of this is the last step is what's called a re-ranker. So ChatGPT, if you ask it a question and it decides, hey, all right, I've got to go out and search the web to get an up-to-date set of answers to this question. Best catering companies in Miami, right? So it's got to go and it's got to find a list. It will do a whole bunch of web searches. for catering companies. It might look for vegetarian. It might look for various, subsets of that, and it's going to pull in all of those pages. And what it's going to do from there is it's going to actually look through the content of those pages and extract just the individual pieces of information it thinks you care about that would actually make a pretty good response. So its response to you will have potentially, it'll look like one thing, but it might be pulling data from 6 or 7 different sources in order to give you that output. So your goal here, if you do want to be featured more often in ChatGPT and all these others, is to try and check all of these boxes. So are you in the training data? Yes, more often. Um, do you show up in the top results for this for the searches that it runs? If so, your chances of being featured are a lot higher. And then if the content that you have on those pages answers the user's question, then you've got a better chance of again being mentioned as as in the results. So that's where it's a little bit different here. It's not just one algorithm. There's potentially 3 different algorithms and 3 different decision points here that you have to optimize for. So, uh, first thing with anything is if you want to feature more often and accurately in ChatGPT and others, the first thing you have to do is figure out, do you show up at all now? And if so, how? So, here's a brief how to audit your site in AI. So, first thing I always start with, and this is things that people kind of forget about, is okay, whether or not you're being featured at all, when a chat GPT or an AI asks about you, when responds, is what it's saying accurate? So a good way to do that, I'll drop out here, is to use a template. You'll have access to this in a bit. We'll send it over as part of this is one of the freebies that Gung had talked about. So what you do is you can fill out this set of information, which should be relatively straightforward to any of you. Name of the organization, domain name, because a lot of organizations have kind of the same name or similar names, so you don't want to confuse the AI. And then just fill in the section here with mission and vision, key programs, impact and results, target supporters, as much of this information as you can. You probably have all of this somewhere. This is a good thing to just keep a record of. Important to note, though, as you're doing this, and I mentioned this, don't use mission statement speak. Most of you probably know what mission statement speak is. We have very flowery language and so forth. If you've done a ChatGPT chat, its conversational style is pretty straightforward and direct. It also has some tells. We all know the M dash thing and the other things you can tell to know it was AI writing. But one thing that happens is I've seen this with a lot of nonprofits is a lot of their writing is academic or research based or compiled in mission statement kind of committee speak. If you happen to be cited, it's likely to just rewrite that into a more straightforward plain language anyways. So if you start with that in the first place, you're far more likely to have the wording that you put on your website, for example, be included in the output. So fill out all of that, and then open up a window and do this twice. So the best way to audit your site for accuracy. So first one is there's a toggle in every AI, and it's in ChatGPT too. So if I look at this here, so under more, this web search here, so you can toggle that on or toggle it off. So you want to run this process twice, once with it on and once with it off. That'll give you a sense of how AI reflects you just based on what it already knows, or if it knows about you at all. And then the other is how well it reflects what it knows about you based on its ability to search the web. So you just copy this prompt and you take the information that you put in there, drop that into the chat, and then you'll have saved this out as like a text file or something like that. Upload it along. And this prompt will ask it to compare what it knows against the things that you've said. And then it will also ask you to give an overall consistency score and then highlight any differences. So we do it once with web search disabled and once with it enabled. Should be, yeah. So let's give that a shot. I'm going to take we have web search enabled. I'm going to paste this in, and I've preset one of these. So I'm going to leave web search off, but I'm going to add the one that I did for a nonprofit that I care about, Fisher House, which is like Ronald McDonald House, but for military families. So I've already done that audit ahead of time. So we're going to see what it says. The least fun part about doing demos in AI world is it could take a minute here to do this stuff. So while it's doing, I'm going to try and look over at the chat. Uh, okay. Yeah. As Doug said, we'll have the this a link to this document, which has all the text you want, and obviously you have this in the slides. Yeah. Once again, this is the downside of doing this in real time. So I'll go back and just while that's going here. And again, hopefully these make sense. These are the things I've done a little bit of consulting with nonprofits. So these are the areas that when I asked some of my colleagues what they would put in here, these are the things that they thought were important. Yeah. Okay. So gives you the mission vision, key programs, all of the things that we did. Plus, you can see it's got some sources here. And its overall consistency was 55 out of 100. Major differences, program scope details, operational model clarity. So you would take this out and you would decide, okay, was AI right in the sense that it feels differently about what it knows than what we did? And maybe we have to change our website to be more concise or more clear. Or maybe do we have to put some information out into the world in terms of text that gets picked up and added to its model, or otherwise across the web. International footprint, suggestions to improve. So it gives you, some pretty good information to go and help. And you can decide whether that's important enough to add to your website or not. But these are the things that it found. And you can run this maybe once a month, maybe once a quarter, make any changes you need to, because it does, these things do take a little time to kind of make their way into the AI as well. But that's a way to do like a quick brand audit for accuracy.
Hmm.
And the next thing here, how to do invisibility. I pulled these together. So there's lots of things you're trying to do here, but when you want to see how often you're mentioned in AI, what you're trying to do is really put yourself in the head of the person that you would hope would find you if they were looking. Maybe they don't know about your organization specifically, but if they're looking for a cause that you support, looking for ways to get involved, looking for ways to volunteer, you would hope that those are that you're featured in there. So one easy way to do this is just to keep a track of I like these 5 core prompts. So cause focused, what are the best cause area nonprofits? If you're locally focused, then always mention the city and region here. You'll get a lot more accurate. When users search ChatGPT, mentioned at the very beginning of this, uh, ChatGPT does have the ability when it searches the web to scope it locally the same way that Google or any other search engine does, but it's not always visible to you. So one of the things that will happen is um, somebody might type, "Hey, what are the best cause area nonprofits?" They won't put a location in there, but ChatGPT will know the context of the user based on their IP address, where they're browsing from, and also if they've done other regional searches before, and it will just automatically append the location to it. Um, Big point here for those of you who are location focused, put the location that you serve everywhere on your site because you don't know what paragraph is going to get extracted from your website's content and reflected back to the user. And I mentioned back here about the re-ranker. One of the things that will happen is the AI will do a search and it will look for nonprofits that support cause area in this region. And if you don't have region sprinkled throughout the text on your site, you might not survive the re-rank or you might not get pulled because it doesn't know, and based on the information it can extract, that you're a locally focused organization. So, cause focused, issue solution, volunteer opportunity, time constrained, um, account for near me variations. So making sure that you have some of these things. If there's a volunteer calendar that it can pull, AI does love structured data. So if you've got a calendar published somewhere on your site with volunteer opportunities, that gives it a chance for somebody who says like, "Hey, I really want to spend some time. My New Year's resolution was to volunteer more, and I'd like to do something this weekend. What can I do?" If you've got a calendar published, you're more likely to get cited. Impact and trust, and then beneficiary focused. So I've most cases here, I've put a couple of variations on there. You can take these, fill them in with your prompts, keep a little spreadsheet somewhere with them, and then just run those against ChatGPT or whichever AI uh, you want to rank for regularly. It doesn't have to be more than monthly, but this will just give you a sense of, if you're mentioned, that's great. If you're not mentioned, okay, who is being mentioned? And then maybe you can work on optimizing content to directly address the prompt. All right. A couple of quick hits here on how do you increase your AI presence with things you can do on your website directly in order to do this. It turns out AIs love to cite from FAQs that you put on your website. It's statistically, it far outpaced something from the FAQs ends up being a source of citation a lot more than other content in your website. And the reason there, as I mentioned, Pax, like it's a conversation engine. So an FAQ is written as a question and answer. So chances are pretty good if it's an FAQ that someone's entering as a prompt for, you have a much higher chance of that being the answer that AI will cite. So people are also expecting to see a set of FAQs at the bottom of most pages there. So this is a great opportunity to just audit your FAQs, build those out. If you have some sort of like a support desk or help ticket or some any sort of tool that allows that tracks interactions you have with your volunteers and stakeholders, those are great sources of FAQs, as are questions people have sent in through social media. Google's People Also Ask is a great way to do this, as are just Reddit searches. So if you've looked around for volunteer opportunities on Reddit and Quora, people will ask questions. Anything you can do to source those, to build those out, try to keep them about no more than about 15 per page. But once you've got those in there, that is the evidence we've seen so far suggests that this will dramatically increase your AI visibility. I mentioned structured content. AI loves tables. It will pull entire tables directly from a web page and give them to the user. So anywhere you can use table structure, calendar structure, all great. If you don't know what JSON LD schema is, that's okay. Your person who built your website probably does. Talk to them about that. Make sure that your web pages are using the schema. This is like structured data that reflects the content in your web. Very, very helpful for AI as well. Again, the ChatGPT and other engines will use the structured content in the form of schema almost as much as they use just the text on your website. And I mentioned before, survey if you serve a specific location, make sure that's on every page that you want an AI to be able to find you on. Those keywords, the location keywords, are going to be part of the matching algorithm that's going to help you rank and be able to be cited and mentioned in AI when somebody searches for it. The grounding search that the ChatGPT runs or whatever it is going to put in the location. So Bristol, Connecticut. If you serve Bristol, Connecticut, that search is probably going to have their location on there. You're far more likely to be mentioned if you have that. The interesting thing about AI, which is different than traditional search engine optimization, is AI doesn't limit itself to just content from your website. It can almost frustratingly, because if there's bad reviews of you out there for whatever reason, or someone had a bad experience and posted it on Reddit, the chances of that being what's cited versus what you put lovingly on your website might be the same. So something to consider is you now, as part of this process, if you care about increasing your visibility in ChatGPT, you have to be monitoring how you're being talked about across the web. So again, consistency is there. It's early 2026. Now would be a great time to just audit your third-party presence, Charity Navigator, Candid, those kind of things, social media. Make sure they're all the same. Nice little lunchtime or early afternoon project. Heck, you could probably knock it off in an hour after this presentation. Make sure that those are all up to date, accurate. Set a calendar reminder to do that, once a year or something like that, or with their smoke detector alarms or all those things. Um, Always good thing to do. And then improving your presence in ChatGPT means you also have to think about building off-site mentions. So if there are listicles, those like top 10, those types of things, finding those, being included in those. AI loves these. So you publishing your own, being mentioned in either local media or national media or cause-specific media, being one of the things that's mentioned, all of these contribute here. If you're not already on Reddit, might be time to do that too. I know it can be it can be interesting. You might have been on it for personal reasons, but it might be time to start thinking about putting information about the organization or the causes you support out there too. Reddit is, I think at one point it peaked as about 23% of ChatGPT citations came from Reddit alone. It's a little lower now, but it's still hovering around 10 or 11%. So if you're not present there, then you're probably missing out on some mention opportunities. The other trick that comes out, and this one gets relatively complex, and can be expensive, but I know there are some tools that specifically help nonprofits tell their story in video form. So might be worth something considering there, because video content has shown to be another solid source of ChatGPT polls. So title, description, transcript, there's evidence out there that ChatGPT and other AIs will source their mentions from videos as well as from your content as well. So to the extent that you can get videos out there, either from stakeholders or from the organization as a whole, putting it out on YouTube and video. Again, another source of third-party mentions that end up getting into ChatGPT and others as well. That's what I got. Got my LinkedIn there if you're interested. My organization, Spyglasses. One of the things that we do is a just put in your domain name and get an audit of your site for free. So it's something you might want to take advantage of as well. It'll give you some of the information I put there in terms of what organization, what brand consistency, and also whether you're featured versus competitors. Yeah, but that's what I got, and I will take.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Jim. That was awesome. I love the very actionable thing, copy and paste, do this for your organization and see what you get, right? That's super easy for everyone to do. So I really like that.
yeah.
So
I'm very
um
eager to see how it works from folks too. I've done this a lot for profits, but I haven't actually done a lot of this with nonprofits. It's the same process, but I'm interested to see how well it translates.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you have any questions, as folks have been listening, um, please put that in chat. One of the things that came to mind, Jim, as you were talking about is, are you discoverable, right? Like, if I,
Yeah,
did they already crawl you? Are there any tricks to like, let's say you're not in their data set today. If I just search for myself, does that force them to get me into the data set? Are there, things that you tactically recommend there?
yeah. So yeah, if I go back to let me pull this back up here. If I pull this one up. So getting into the training data is probably the hardest of all of these. Um, that takes time. It can take weeks. The single biggest predictor of whether you will be in ChatGPT or any AI's training data is whether you have a Wikipedia page.
Hmm.
So if your nonprofit has a Wikipedia page, the chances of you being in the training data are near 100%. If you don't, it's near zero. So that's something to work on. Yeah, obviously, that's has its own process and hoops to go through, but
Yeah.
that's the best way to show up in the training data. I mean, I can say though, as an organization that's not in Wikipedia and not in training data, it's not the end of the world. The next layer down, ChatGPT is, I've heard people describe it as basically just like somebody who searches the web for you on your behalf, right? Like if you were like, oh, I have a question, in the past, you would type it into Google and you might click through the top 10 links and you were doing that process yourself. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe that, I'm going to pull all this together. It's all going on in your brain. Now it's just happening with an agent that goes out and does it for you.
Hmm.
So it's not the end of the world if you're not in the training data. These grounding searches are probably the biggest next step down for things you can actually do. One, we actually, my platform will show the grounding searches that AI made to try and find you, and then we also show the top 30 results in Google and Bing for those. Almost nobody is actually in those. So the opportunities to
Hmm.
basically just make a little bit of content that targets that specific thing already puts you ahead of most people in your industry. So that's a way to do that. There are a couple of tools out there other than mine that will do this. There's actually even a browser plugin where you can just like chat with ChatGPT and it just records them in the background. So
Hmm.
I can see if I can find the link to that. It's I have it installed. It's pretty straightforward. This one's a little harder, but if you're writing content that subs here, you're almost guaranteed to pass the re-ranker because most people aren't writing content that optimizes for these. So the chances of them being included in the re-ranker are relatively low. So I think that's probably the biggest things that I would say.
Okay. And I saw there's a couple questions that came in already. So one, yeah, we're going to be sharing the slides in the audit criteria. And then John had a question about Wikidata.
Yep.
And didn't I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Um, Super helpful. Common Crawl, which is a AI crawler that basically is licensed by a bunch of different AI tools, does use Wikidata quite a bit. I don't think, though, that it gets quite the same level of authority signal just because it has a much lower barrier to entry, right? It's relatively easy to get into Wikidata versus
Hmm.
relatively hard to get into Wikimedia. So wouldn't hurt. I would say, any web mention of you out there is generally going to be a positive thing, but it's probably not giving you the same authority that a Wikipedia is.
Yeah. Joe had a question about how do you integrate the types of volunteer opportunities? They take disadvantaged youth on a historical schooner, and they have volunteers that manage events, the sanding, and refinishing the ship deck.
Yeah,
Is there any tips on?
yeah. I separate those out. Each of those is an opportunity. Like that deserves a page of like. I would love to. Actually, those that actually sounds awesome, right? Both of those sound really exciting. But each one of those as a page alone, describing it with pictures, with descriptive text on there to get ahead and answer Gene's question about images too.
Hmm,
Um, Pictures help, videos to the extent you can publish those out there. All of those help. The chances of somebody saying like, "Oh, can I, is there a volunteer opportunity to help with sanding ship decks?" Probably not, but that's
you'll be
going to
number
be
one.
what it's going to do though is AI loves if somebody says, I love to work with disadvantaged youth. What are some creative opportunities for me in this region? The chances of those being picked up because that is something that's not seen every day, very, very high.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
And then yeah, the Gene's question around location, right? So you mentioned really adding location to everywhere. Is there any risk, right, if you do serve nationwide, even if you're based in Pittsburgh, right? Does that hurt you in
Um,
some way when someone searches in
it
Atlanta?
it does in only in a sense that when you don't include location in the search and in the context, you are now competing, for lack of a better word, with every other organization that might be a fit. What are some, I would like to volunteer without location context. You can think like, what would a Google search show up? What would an AI search show up for that? It could be anything without any. First thing it's probably going to ask you is like, where are you? Since it's a conversation engine, and then try to answer your question a little bit more, uh, specifically. But one thing you can do, and Doug, your point about your Atlanta volunteer opportunities, make a page for every location. If you serve more than one location, pick every metro area you serve and make a variation of your copy that just describes how you work with that organization in that location. So those that will give you a chance to be mentioned wherever somebody is if you truly have an opportunity to work with them.
Yeah, it sounds like one of the takeaways I'm getting out of this is that really having more content generically helps quite a bit, whether it's, a page for each or,
Yep.
volunteering opportunity, a page for each location, right? The more
Yep.
specificity you can have, the better it is for search.
Yep. And John, you're correct about alt text. In fact, although AI can generate images, as we've seen, as I mean, it's been in the news. Some of you have probably done this as well. When it crawls a web page in real time, it does not look at the image itself, but it does look at the alternative text. And those also become a real source of citation. So, to the extent your alt text reinforces the concept of the page, that's a huge bonus.
Got it. And then Gene had one more question about how about adding dates for currency? Um,
Also, a good point. I probably should have thrown this in there because it is another thing. Um, People are starting to actually kind of, as they did with Google, a decade ago, they're starting to reverse engineer how ChatGPT decides what to search. And one of the things that they've found is just putting a date in the title turns out to actually dramatically increase search. Like it's almost like it shouldn't be this way, but it does work.
Hmm.
So for those of us who have content that's out there that said how to do X in 2025 or that kind of thing, just go edit that character, republish. You're likely to get picked up even more often. AI loves recent content, especially because if you think about the idea of it has a sense of knowledge, but it doesn't have a sense of current events because it's always kind of behind it in its internal training data. So anytime it thinks, oh, I need to know what's recent or interesting or up to date, it's going to go out and search. And when I talked about those grounding searches, in addition to tacking on location, it will very often tack on the current year to those searches, and it will favor content with a recent published date. So definitely another hack is a good word for it, but it definitely works.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, any other questions from folks? And while people are waiting, potentially, I'm gonna put a quick link in here. This is our feedback form. And so before everyone kind of leaves, if you have a chance to leave some feedback on this webinar, that'd be super appreciated. It helps us understand what folks enjoy. We also have a space for you to suggest upcoming topics. And so we'll go out and recruit the right folks for you all, so that we're providing the most value that we can, right? And I saw two more come in here. Uh, Umeka said, "I work for a state agency. My bureau recruits volunteers. Um, they also recruit volunteers for other training that can assist. We are currently asked to have websites update for ADA." So I'm not sure that's maybe the question is how would you make sure your website's updated for ADA compliance? Um, and then
Yeah.
John has a yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be happy to if you have a follow up on that. Like, happy to talk about that. John, yeah, schema.org. Um, Helpful in general. I wouldn't say it's like the end all. Like, so AI still like it's something that is considered when it comes in, especially because the data that's in the schema, the structured data, which doesn't show up to users, if it's generally duplicating content on the page. I mentioned the whole FAQ thing. So there is a JSON schema for FAQs as question and answer text. This means that the content on the page, the question and the answer, is actually included twice, one that humans can see and twice, once another time in the schema that AI can see. So the fact that it's included twice actually doubles its chances of being cited just because it's included a couple of times. So worth it to do. I know um, that's going to take some website development if that's not something that you're comfortable doing yourself. That does take some specialized skill to add that into it, but it is worthwhile.